It's 7 o'clock.
Well, it's 7 o'clock, but I believe we're going to have a full board attendance tonight, and we're still missing 2 trustees. So let's give it a couple more minutes for people to dial in before we kick this off. Give Tanya 1 or 2 more minutes. I think she's dealing with some slow internet issues. And we'll kick this off tonight. All right, I think it's 7:05 p.m., so I think we'll get started. We have a quorum here with us this evening. So let us kick this meeting off at 7:05 p.m. on October 20th, 2020. Miranda, if you would please call the roll.
Mayor Larson.
Here.
Trustee Taylor.
Here.
Trustee Apt.
Here.
Trustee Coombs Ismail.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Baumhover.
Here.
Trustee Danforth.
Here.
And I just want to see if Trustee Corvallin is on the phone. Okay, please note for the record that Trustee Corvallin is absent at this time.
Thank you, everyone, for joining this evening. We will move forward on the agenda to the consent. We have two items, the warrants and the minutes from the previous meeting. Do any members of the Board of Trustees have questions, comments regarding the consent agenda?
This is Trustee Taylor. I do have one question about the DDA information. I'm kind of curious, what is COVID stopgap payments? Does anyone here know what that means?
So that was, Trustee Taylor, that's the funding. So they had stopgap funding for businesses that they could apply for. So that would be payment to those businesses
I see. Thank you.
who received the award money.
Very fine. Thank you.
Any other questions? Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
This is Trustee Taylor. I move to approve the consent agenda.
I will second it.
We have a second from Trustee Danforth. Miranda?
Mayor Pro Tem Baumhover.
Yes.
Trustee Coombs Ismail.
Yes.
Trustee Apt.
Yes.
Mayor Larson.
Yes.
Trustee Danforth.
Yes.
Trustee Taylor.
Yes.
Consent agenda passes. Moving forward to public comment on non-agenda items, we did not have any submitted for inclusion in the packet, but if anyone would like, from the public, would like to speak on any matter that is not on the agenda this evening, now would be your opportunity. You can have 3 minutes to speak on anything you think the board should know about. So please raise your hand, speak up. I see a hand up from Scott Papich. You get to go first. Thank you, Scott. Please give your name and, if you're a Nederland resident or not, for the record.
Thanks, Chris. Can you hear me okay?
We can indeed.
Okay. Scott Papich. I live at 470 3rd Street in Nederland. And I'm aware that the Little Bear Village item has been taken off the agenda for this evening. I think it's going to happen next month, and that's fine. I just wanted to, I still wanted to attend and also convey to the Board of Trustees that I think I would encourage, and I'd be happy to get involved with it in whatever way is most appropriate, but I'd like to encourage the Board of Trustees to consider perhaps revisiting and changing the codes for building heights in part of town. I think we reached somewhat of a consensus at our last meeting that the Little Bear Village, even though it was legal at less than 35 feet, it was inappropriate for the neighborhood. And for this part of town, if we're saying that, and I think there was an agreement that 24 to 25 feet height around here was appropriate for this part of the town and the neighborhood, I would love for this town and the Board of Trustees to start to initiate a process for maybe revising the code to be in line with that decision. And I'd be happy to talk with anybody at any time about that. It's just an idea that I would like to bring to the board tonight. Thank you for hearing me out. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you, Scott. Anyone else from the public speak on any item? Not hearing or seeing anyone else raise their hand, we will move forward. I encourage anyone, of course, if you have any comments for the board, please submit them via email during the non-meeting times as well. We have one informational item this evening, and that is going to be presented to us by Katrina Harms. There we go. Welcome, Katrina.
Hi. This chair is definitely a lot more comfortable than the chair I sat in for the last 10 years, attending these meetings. I am the consultant to the Peak to Peak Housing and Human Resources, and also an administrative assistant to the pantry. And Dennis, who is the chair of the Peak to Peak Alliance, is working our fire emergency. The community center is the evacuation site. So I'm just going to jump in here really quick. He didn't have anything extremely elaborate planned for this informational item, but there are two things. There was one thing that made him want to present, and now there are two things. The first thing is, as you are considering your budget and the STR fees that are supposed to go to human resources, to remind everybody that the food pantry is the de facto human resources organization, and has been for many years providing support beyond food, and the organization that people go to for housing and food, and have been instrumental in creating the Peak to Peak Housing and Human Resources Alliance. The informational item for the Board of Trustees included a couple of documents. I'm happy to answer any questions now. And also, we recently met with Trustee Coombs Ismail, and I think that was very beneficial to him, and reminded us that we need to remind everybody why we're here and what we do. The documents definitely highlight some of our accomplishments. And right before COVID, we had started talking with organizations. I'm sorry, I'm not always sure what exactly I can say, about bringing medical health to the Peak to Peak, and also mental health therapists to Peak. And I'm happy to say that in the last month, both of those conversations have been started again, and we're excited to be able to report that we're moving forward on some of those. The recent fire emergency has definitely helped put some emphasis on it. So happy to answer any questions here. Dennis or I are happy to take any questions via email, and I can provide those email addresses. I just click on a link for Dennis, so I can't tell you what it is, but mine is katrina@katrinaharms.com. And the pantry and the Alliance have done some amazing things over the last couple of years. So I really encourage people to read the documents and let us know if there's anything we can do, or questions that you have to answer.
Thank you much, Katrina. And I was hoping I'd get a chance to thank Dennis, but he's busy tonight. I just want to thank everyone who's been part of the Health and Human Services Alliance, jumping into action this weekend as was obviously needed. So thank you guys, everything you guys have done and continue to do. Just for the record, I want to recognize that Trustee Corvalin has joined us as call-in user 6. So welcome, Tanya. Do any trustees have questions for Katrina about the pantry or Peak to Peak Housing and Human Services Alliance?
I don't have so many questions as much as I do just a comment that it was great to meet with y'all and see all the good work that you are doing. And I do hope that Nederland as a town can contribute and support the work that you guys are doing even more. And that would be my hope for what we do with any funding that's incoming our way. And if you have thoughts around how we can best support you as a town government, please let us know. And I would love to take that under consideration. So thank you guys.
Thank you.
Katrina, this is Trustee Taylor. Just want to note that your documentation is very thorough and very helpful. And I have a rough idea of what you do already from reports from my spouse, but and also for volunteering from time to time. But excellent work you do, and excellent work in supporting and participating in the Peak to Peak Housing and Human Services Alliance.
Thank you.
Other trustees?
To follow us, we have a Facebook page, Peak to Peak Human Services.
Thank you very much, Katrina.
Thank you.
We hopefully seeing you in person again very soon. To the action items for this evening, and beginning with a request for continuation for the PUD and density increase for Little Bear Village, which will be introduced by Miranda.
Can you hear me? I'm also on the phone with Tanya because I added her in.
Yes, we can hear
you.
Okay. So Little Bear Village, the Bulyoungs had sent an email, which is included in the packet. They're still working on a few things to meet the recommendations of the Board of Trustees. So they're asking that their review be continued to the next meeting of November 10th. They are aware that their presentation will follow the public hearing for the budget and some other items that were already on the agenda, but that is their request. So basically we're just asking the Board of Trustees to approve the continuation for the record, since they were originally set to come back today.
Very good. Thank you, Miranda. This is like she said, this is a fairly pro forma thing to move it to the next meeting, just to dot all the I's. But as it is an action item, I would like to open this up to any public comment on the continuation of this public hearing. Not seeing or hearing any, I'll bring it back to the board for any comments or motions.
This is Trustee Taylor. I would just like to note that I think it is very positive and hopeful that we were not provided with something that the builders did not think was ready yet. I mean, the fact that our builders are assessing this and have found it not quite ready to put forward gives me great confidence that what we will see will be complete and sufficient. So I'm just saying I'm hopeful about this.
Anyone else? We have a motion to approve the continuation.
This is Trustee Taylor. I move to continue I move to approve the continuation.
This is Baumhover, I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Miranda?
Trustee Apt,
Yes.
Trustee Apt,
Looks like it's working now.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Trustee Danforth. Yep. Trustee Danforth.
Looks like the internet's working.
Yes. Trustee Coombs
Oh,
Ismail.
Yes.
Mayor Larson.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Baumhover.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Baumhover.
Yes.
Trustee Taylor.
Yes.
Trustee Corvallin.
Yes.
Motion for continuation is unanimously passed. Moving on to our second action item this evening, which is going to be introduced by our town attorney, which is regarding the quiet lawsuit against the town, the quiet title action, excuse me. And so, Jennifer?
Good evening, Mayor, Trustees, Jennifer Madsen, Town Attorney. I'm here before you tonight on an action item. And essentially the request is to ask the Board of Trustees to designate one individual or perhaps 2 or 3 individuals to kind of be my go-to person for this quiet title action. The reason for the request is that from time to time, there are decisions that will need to be made in defending this quiet title action. And rather than hold up those decisions or take up time from the Board of Trustees regular meetings, I suggest for efficiency's sake that the Board of Trustees appoint a person or persons to act in this role. I have in the aim and in the resolution designated or given some suggestions as to what this person would be authorized to do if appointed. And I open that up for feedback from you as in terms of revisions for these suggestions. Let me just go through them really quickly here. The person would be a point of contact for me related to the quiet title action. The person would be authorized to decide minor matters related to the quiet title action, such as scheduling expenditures of less than $5,000 and strategy on matters that are not outcome determinative. The person would be authorized to sign discover and disclosure documents. And then also this person would be authorized to decide that matters should be considered, even if they would fit within any of these categories, should be considered by the entire Board of Trustees. And like I said, it can be one person, it could be 2 members of the Board of Trustees. Additionally, you could also have the town administrator act in this role. So I think the rest of it's pretty explanatory, self-explanatory, and I can open it up for questions.
Thank you, Jennifer. And yeah, just because this is the type of thing, these are, again, just efficiency type decisions, and this person or persons would then be, they could at any time say, hold on, this decision needs to be made by the full Board of Trustees, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Any questions for town administrator about this? Trustee Apt?
Sounds like a good approach to me. I think we should proceed.
Trustee Coombs Ismail?
Agreed.
Trustee Baumhover, or Mayor Pro Tem Baumhover?
Had myself on mute. I like the idea. I do like Jennifer's suggestion that actually we include a town staff member, just in case any of us trustees would be hard to get a hold of whoever we decide. I think it would be helpful to have a trustee / town staff member kind of team, whether that is with our town administrator, Karen Garrity, or our deputy town administrator, Miranda Fisher.
Good idea. Trustee Tate?
No questions. Looks good.
Trustee Danforth?
Yes, I agree with Mayor Pro Tem Baumhover that potentially we should add a backup from town staff. So I would like to see either Miranda or Karen be added as a backup.
Yeah, agreed. And Trustee Corvallin?
No, I don't really have any comment.
All right. I know I would like to propose, because I've been talking to town staff and talking to Mayor Pro Tem Baumhover, I would like to make the proposal that the 2 individuals be named Mayor Pro Tem Baumhover and town administrator. Anyone have any concerns with that being the names we put into the proposed resolution?
Nope, I would second that.
Okay, so that would be the draft of Resolution 2020-35 would be named Mayor Pro Tem Jonathan Baumhover and our town administrator, Karen Garrity, as the points of contact for our town attorney, Jennifer Madsen, with regards to the quiet title action. As we chew on this and think about it, I will open this up for public comment. If any member of the public would like to speak on this matter as it is an action item, now would be your opportunity. And seeing and hearing none, I will bring this back to the town board if they have any further comments, questions, or if anyone would like to make a motion regarding Resolution 2020-35.
This is Trustee Taylor. I move to approve Resolution 2020-35, delegating authority to Karen Garrity and Jonathan Baumhover related to Stinson Some Our Home LLC et al. Against Town of Nederland et al.
I'm sorry, can I just make a point of clarification? Rather than putting the names in, I suggest putting in the positions in, just in the event that there would be some changes. I think that would
just
make
leave
it
it
so
at
we wouldn't have to do a cleanup.
Just leave it at the Mayor Pro Tem and Town Administrator.
Correct.
Do I need to restate it?
That would be preferable, yes.
All right. I move to approve Resolution 2020-35, delegating authority to the Town Administrator and the Mayor Pro Tem related to Stinson Some Our Home LLC et al. Against Town of Nederland et al.
I will second that.
We have a motion and a second. Thank you very much. Miranda, if you would please call the vote.
Trustee Coombs Ismail,
Yes.
Trustee Taylor,
Yes.
Trustee Apt,
Yes.
Trustee Danforth,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Baumhover,
Yes.
Trustee Corvallin,
Yes.
Mayor Larson.
Yes. Resolution 2020-35 is passed unanimously. Thank you to Karen and Jonathan for stepping into these roles. We will move forward now into the meat of our meeting this evening, our discussion items, of which we have 3, beginning with a discussion regarding a solar energy international partnership. And I believe this was going to be introduced by our sustainability coordinator, Garrett. I'm trying to see if I see him online here.
He might be on the phone.
That's what. Garrett, are you calling user 3, 4, or 5?
Maybe we can rearrange and I will message him.
I think that sounds like a plan. Let us bump 7.1 to the end of the discussion items and see if he joins us this evening. In that case, we will move forward into the second discussion item on the list, which is the water and sewer base fee discussion, of which there's a lot of good information in the packet. And I will be turning to Trustee Taylor, who has done all the hard work on pulling this together, to introduce it to us. Julian, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor Larson. So there are a number of issues that I bring up that are worthy of at least thinking through. We don't know if these are issues or not necessarily, but they certainly they were issues that were brought up while I was discussing this with numerous town staff. Hold on while I find it as I move through. Okay, so I provide a lot of supporting information, and I'm just going to summarize the information I'm providing here, and we can discuss this as we move forward. One is the possibility that the definitions I provide for what gets charged, that is to say, moving from use, which I am arguing is vague, to address, which I'm arguing can be made more specific, may require different town software for billing. We do not know that this is the case yet. We have not actually tried to use it yet, but I just wanted to note that if our town software is incapable of supporting this change, we may need to invest in new town software. And in that case, we would need to consider fees that would help us to purchase such new software. I am hopeful that our existing software will see use as kind of an opaque thing that could be easily replaced by address, but we don't know that that is the case. And so I thought it was necessary to at least bring that up as something that may want to be considered. I also wanted to just bring to the board's attention the fact that our code allows us to charge a different fee, a different base fee, for a tap that is larger than 3/4 of an inch. We're burdened by a lot of historical information and a lot of taps that were attached long before anyone on the board or anyone on staff had been here. And so we're not actually positive how big our various taps are. That's an important thing to note. But I merely wanted to bring it forward to the board that the code allows us to charge more for a tap that is larger than 3/4 of an inch. We don't do that right now, but we may want to consider that, and I provide a formula in my proposed wording for addressing the case where a single very large tap is feeding a number of different addresses. The other is, I just wanted to bring up that there may be several cases where we will find multi-use buildings with only one address. And those are cases where I'm proposing we're just going to have to bite the bullet and say we cannot charge multiple base fees for that building. And we will, in order to remain revenue neutral, we will need to see to it that Raftellus, who is doing our analysis here, understands that and is able to propose a water usage fee that allows us to make up for whatever loss we have there. The goal is a revenue neutral solution. That is what I am driving at here. And the wording, I hope, is going to allow us to produce a revenue neutral solution that is not a great burden to our users. And with that, I will simply present you with the proposed wording, which is in the packet, and ask for any comments or suggestions regarding that wording. And I open the floor to, I return the floor to the mayor now.
Thank you very much, Julian. Just to be clear, looking at your proposed wording, just as a way to sort of make the discussion smooth this evening, am I correct in saying that the wording changes for sewer and for water are the same?
They are very, very similar because we do not have equipment to measure sewer outflow. We only measure water inflow, which I'm just going to note as an aside, may be why in the past we have occasionally offered discounts to gardeners, because we don't have a way of measuring how much water goes into a garden rather than going through the sewer. And that might be something to consider as a regular thing. Not sure. But yes, we only are able to measure water inflow, not the sewage outflow. And so just as with the original code, this too relies on the water inflow for measurement.
Very good. Okay. Yeah, again, thank you for all the work you've put into this. I think it's very good start for this discussion this evening. I have a couple quick questions, and these may be questions more suited for town staff. First is just the current status of the rate study with Raftellus. Where are we in that process, and do we expect, and how soon do we expect to have results from that rate study? That might be a Ken or Chris question, I think.
Chris, do you want to tackle that one? I know that we are proceeding, but I'm not sure exactly where we're at.
We're in the very early stages of gathering data, and so I can't say for sure.
I know we
when
were.
we'll have results.
Our hope was to have something by the first quarter of next year, early on in the first quarter of next year.
So everything's still progressing and we're still on track for that.
I believe so, yes. Hopefully, after the first of the year, we'll have something preliminary to bring to the board.
Okay.
And Chris, we don't have any outstanding items still due to them. The town staff has sent all the data they've requested. Is that correct?
I believe so. I think they have everything they've requested of us, so they're kind of processing it now.
Okay. I just was curious. I want to make sure that there weren't any, COVID related delays, fire related, any of these things, any of the myriad reasons we could be having delays starting up. So, all right. Thank you very much. Has town staff, have you looked at this code change? And do you have thoughts on this?
Yes, I did, and I defer to Chris. Both Chris and I looked at it and gave some feedback. And I feel like this is a good, like you said, Mayor Larson, it's a good place to start.
Okay.
Yeah, I concur. I'm okay with it, and the key here is revenue neutral.
This is Trustee Taylor. I'm certainly hoping that Raftellus will be able to help us assure that this is revenue neutral, because I know that Raftellus is aware of the general idea that we've been discussing, and certainly if we agree upon this, Raftellus would have access to this wording and would be able to use this information as part of their study.
Very good. I think, because I was asking town staff because I read through this and this seems very logical to me. Big surprise coming from the mind of Julian, and looks like a great step for me in my mind for changes to unify or make the code for water and sewer base fees and usage fees a little more logical and standard. So I'm going to just go down see if any other trustees have thoughts and comments, and we'll go in opposite order, beginning with Trustee Corvalin.
You hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, Tanya.
Okay. It looks good to me. That seems like that'll take care of the problem for the future. So that's good.
Okay. Trustee Danforth? Lindsay?
Sorry, it takes me a second to find my mute button. Yeah, I think this is a great step in the right direction and cleaning up the code. I certainly agree with changing it from use, which just because a building has, say, a potential secondary use doesn't mean that they need to be charged a second base fee. So I like that we're moving towards the address. So if you're sending a bill to an address, they get that base fee. So I really like that concept. I do think that for finalizing any of this language, I wait until after we have that rate study, just in case there's anything else we want to add in or change. But I really like all of the work that Julian's put into this. I read it carefully and agree with the direction we're going. So thank you, Julian, for doing this.
Mayor Pro Tem Baumhover.
Yeah, I would pretty much just vocalize exactly what everyone else has. I do have one concern with the question regarding our town software. I think there is a need to change our code, and at least in the very least clean up the definitions here so that we move toward the addresses instead of use, and not have both a use and a usage in the definition, which has really confused people over the past few years. That said, we do have pretty high water and sewage rates already for a small town. Part of that is a result of being a small town with a pretty new water treatment plant. So I would kind of segment Lindsay, say that I would rather not change any of this code until after the rate study is completed, and just continue to work and talk about these potential changes. I would be very concerned about switching town software for the billing of our sewage, not only the increased costs we'd have to pass on to our users, but as well as the increase in time and staff time to familiarize themselves with a new software. So that fact, thank you very much, Julian, for bringing that and kind of stating that right off the bat with this discussion. I will say I have some strong concerns about that and would like to explore just how much we can use our current town software to essentially bill based upon these new parameters. That's about it.
Thank you, Jonathan. Trustee Coombs Ismail?
Yeah, I do think this makes a lot more sense. And I also think that it moves us more towards a position in the code where we can think about water use in sustainability terms a little bit better. It will make it so that we will reward people essentially for less water use in general, and they will only have to pay that base fee for the taps that they actually have. And so if people want to pay less on their water bill, they'll be able to control that to some extent on their own, which I think is important. And this puts us another step in that direction. And I hope we do move towards a more kind of sustainability focused water pricing model. The issue with the software, I mean, I really feel like the software that we have should be able to do this. And I guess we need to ask staff whether or not it can, according to these changes that Julian has laid out. And that, again, is more staff time on maybe something that seems a fairly trivial task, but it would be good to know if we were putting ourselves in a situation where we need a massive software upgrade to make this happen. And I don't know how else to learn that.
Thank you, Eric. Trustee Apt.
I don't really have anything to add. I think my colleagues have covered it. I think you've all brought up good, legitimate points, and I would concur with what has been said. It's a good idea, and the devil's in the details.
Isn't it always? Question for town staff: what steps would be necessary to delve into the software issue? How hard would it be to find out if our software could be shifted from a use to address basis?
I can look into that. I'm not entirely clear. I'd have to get together with Kat, who is most familiar with our software. And as you know, she's been impacted by the fires, or may not know. So she's been working kind of part-time with the town. So it's been difficult. But I can say that the 22 addresses that we removed the second base fee took her several hours just for those 22 addresses. So it's a very tedious kind of software and not very user friendly. And so, and that was just 22 addresses. So, I mean, if you were to do the math on the 700 or 800 addresses, I mean, it would just take weeks and weeks and weeks to make changes. And those are minor changes, just removing a base fee. So I know it's not really user friendly, but as far as like its limitations, I'm not truly clear on that. So I'll have to talk to Kat about it.
Okay. And maybe this is a question for Julian, is kind of what do you see as next steps on this?
Oh, I would think that I think it's a good idea to go ahead and provide our proposed wording to Raftellus so they have this information with which to work, and to wait till the Raftellus report comes back. And at that point, I would think we would go through the process, and I'm sure there's a process, because there's always a process, of changing the code to match the code upon which we agree. If Mayor, if I could have a moment, I'd like to present the board with a revelation we had in our discussion with Raftellus that wasn't obvious to me, but I think is helpful.
Please do.
So we were talking with Raftellus, and I remember that in a discussion at one point, we discussed this concept of if everyone in Nederland went on vacation and no one was using water, would the base fee cover the costs of maintaining our system? And in discussing this with Raftelis, it became obvious that it won't. The base fee actually is not the fee that maintains our static system. The fee that maintains our static system would be way, way beyond what we charge as a base fee. And so I think it's helpful for everyone on the board to understand that the combination of base fee and usage fee is not a strict distinction between what is static cost and what is usage cost. And the reason for that is that if we charged everyone a base fee that was sufficient to maintain our static system without changes to filters or anything, we would be charging a base fee that's way, way above this base fee. And so the base fee combined with the usage fee go together to form a pool of revenue that is sufficient to maintain the entire system, whether static or in full use. And so I think it's important for the board to realize that if we decided to do this, we could drop the base fee altogether and just raise the usage fee. There are towns that have done this. That's what Raftelis has told us. Or we maintain the usage fee and the base fee as separate things. And I would propose that if someone were to ask us what is the purpose of the usage fee, I would agree with the mayor who has made a similar statement that the base fee is essentially a covenant that says I'm paying this base fee, and that guarantees that you're going to provide me with a pipe that would give me access to town resources whether I use them or not. The strict meaning of the base fee and the strict meaning of the usage fee is very much a gray area, and that's true in any town, not just Nederland. And I just thought it would be useful to bring that up so the board understands that. The base fee doesn't cover the static use of the system. It doesn't come anywhere near to it. It's more a convention that is common among lots of towns, and we're just carrying that convention forward. But if any member of the board wished to propose that we drop the base fee entirely, there are some arguments for that. I'm not making that argument, but I'm just saying that there are towns that do that. This town has decided to go with a base fee as part of the charge. So that was my revelation.
Thank you. I think that's really, really critical. And one question I would have is, because I know when we did the rate study with Raftelis 6-7 years ago, they came to us with several different funding models based on, at the time, our goal being reducing or emphasizing users' ability to save water and thus reduce their overall cost. Have we given Raftelis any indication of the types of models we'd like to see this time? I'm trying to get at, are they going to come back and just say, here's your sort of your base model for base fee, usage fee model, or is there still room to say, is there still room to give them leeway to say, here's what it would be to be a usage fee only that provides the same revenue to keep that we need to keep the sewage, water and sewer plants going?
Mayor Larson, I'll just start that question and then maybe Chris can jump in. So that was one of the reasons why they did the kickoff meeting with the Board of Trustees, was to take your input. And during that meeting, they did hear things like, an interest in having kind of incentives for conservation. They heard the desire to have a more equitable system in place and something that is easier for people to understand. Chris and I have continued to update them on the conversation that's unfolding. I do believe, Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, but we shared with them in a recent call kind of where things were moving and some of the suggestions that Trustee Taylor was bringing to the Board of Trustees. So in my mind, they're pretty up to date with what's going on, and I believe are going to want to bring to us, the answers to the questions we have. But that being said, yes, we could still give them more information as long as it doesn't involve a whole different type of data collecting. We can certainly continue to share with them any input from the board. Chris Pelletier, do you have anything to add to that?
No, that's a pretty good summary. I think we gave them a pretty decent sense of how we're feeling and the direction that the board is going and what they would like to see for options. And they sort of intimated that it was a little bit early for us to really set exactly what options we should bring before the board at this moment, as they're still sort of in the data collection stage, and the MIP isn't complete yet, and they still need that information as far as assets of the town. So I think they have a really good sense of what the town wants, and we can guide them further as they go get a little further along in the study.
Mayor, this is Trustee Taylor. I was in at least one of those meetings, and I think it is appropriate to note that we have not explicitly suggested a no base fee approach, although that can be proposed later. I myself feel very comfortable with the notion of the base fee as a kind of exactly like the code says. It's an access fee. It says, by paying this fee, you guarantee me access, and now I'm paying usage on top of that. I feel comfortable with that philosophically, but certainly if the board wanted to suggest that they consider a no base fee approach, I don't think I see a major argument against it.
Yeah, and I guess I was trying to get with town staff is, when is the appropriate time for us to ask that of Raftellus? I know we had the kickoff meeting, and I know there have been additional meetings, but when they come to us, I don't want it to wait too long, and they come to us with something that looks a lot like what we have now, and then we ask them to do more, is what I'm trying to get away from.
If you so basically in your conversation tonight, if you have some direction that you want to give staff to give to them, we will do that tomorrow. And it could just be a not a 4 or whatever. I know this is just discussion, but if there's or is this action? I'm sorry. Anyways,
it's a discussion item. It's a discussion.
We can take feedback anytime. But I will say, if you talk about anything that would require more data collection, we might be almost past that. But as far as how do they structure their recommendations to us, we could take that to them, like I said, tomorrow.
I see, Eric.
Yeah.
I see you popping in on mute.
Well, that was, a few months ago when this first came up, and I sort of suggested that I wasn't really sure why we needed a base fee at all. This is sort of vindicating in that sense that, but not that I am advocating against having a base fee. I'm not, but I do think that it's possible to not have one because it wasn't so clear what exactly it covered. And I guess what I would really like to know from Raftellus is, and I don't know if they can know this, and I guess it has to be in consultation with staff, but what really is the minimum guaranteed or kind of guaranteed revenue that our water system and our public works department can get away with when it comes to collecting base fees. And I know that it doesn't cover the system itself, even as it is. And so if we did lower it, that would lower our kind of guaranteed revenue in that sense. And I don't have a good sense of what the minimum allowable really is from the perspective of both our town staff or Raftellus with their wealth of knowledge about water systems in other towns, and what towns have been able to get away with when it comes to base fees, because that conservation approach does interest me, and I know there's a lot of debate as to whether or not charging higher usage fees and lower base fees actually does promote conservation. I know there are a lot of research papers out there that say that it does not, or that there's no guarantee that conservation will be the result of such a pricing scheme. But I do think we have to give our residents the best possible chance of being able to conserve water, and in so doing, conserve their own funds. So I hope that we can come up with a model that does reward conservation, even if the suggestion is that people might not take us up on it. But I do want to be able to reward it.
This is Trustee Taylor. This is Trustee Taylor referring back to the original Reftelis report, the first one that I saw. They certainly did provide three completely different approaches, and they were based upon I forget the names they used for them, but just to reassure Trustee Coombs Esmail, one of them was a progressive usage fee that was intended to promote conservation. I would hope they'll be providing something at least similar to that now. Yeah.
Yeah, I imagine that they would, and I guess I'm just trying to make sure that part of this conversation is still kind of present in our thinking about how we might address this going forward and how we might analyze information that's given to us by Reftelis eventually.
Well, I think that is certainly one piece of feedback we can, request town staff to ensure makes it back to Reftelis. Other trustees?
Yeah,
Yep.
Tanya.
Tanya, go ahead.
I do agree with Eric about wanting to promote conservation by having a fee based on usage that gets more expensive as you use more water. But I do kind of feel like we do need to keep a base fee. I just know there's so many second or third homes in Nederland that are vacant a lot. And I just think it'd be good for us to just keep that base fee. I mean, I'd say about half the houses in my general neighborhood are empty half the time. So I think it would save us financially to keep the base fee, but then have usage tiered. So those that don't use a lot of water get charged less than those that do use. And from what I understand, that it will come out in the rate study if that's possible. And then back to software, that may be a more complicated software issue. So that may end up being something we need to invest in, but I don't necessarily think we should pass that on to the water users because they're not to blame that our software is old. I mean, we always have to upgrade stuff. We don't always pass it on to the consumer. Those are my opinions.
Thank you, Tanya.
Yeah, if I could jump in here, I'd just actually like to second what Tanya said there about if we do run into the need to upgrade our software, I really do not feel that should be passed on to our users. I feel that we should find a way within the town Nederland budget to put that under capital improvement. Hearing what Chris just said about how long it took to change 21 houses off of a base fee, it seems like that we might want to look at a potential upgrade of software anyway, even if we don't go about any of these changes to this code. Seeing the agreement on this board, I believe we will move forward with some changes to this code, but I am very against the idea of passing on the cost to users to upgrade essentially our billing software. That's a capital improvement in my eyes, and not only will it save staff time, I think if we were to put some money into the budget through a capital improvement or some other aspect of the general fund, we'd see that return in staff time, essentially, that we're spending on our billing. And I will say that most residents are very, very confused about what the heck their water bill even says. So to have a software that could more clearly outline that is great. I'm in full support of keeping a base fee, not only as Tanya mentioned and Julia mentioned, it's kind of a necessity, but I believe we're kind of missing a different aspect of the base fee here, where it also provides incentives to not just buy land in town and hold on to it until you can get your biggest bang for the buck based upon the economy. There's a certain aspect to that, which in reviewing a lot of the older documentation regarding this was kind of somewhat inherent in the mindset of those BOTs who chose this route, that we should charge a base fee because that will actually incentivize folks to develop the land that they have in town based upon our comprehensive plan. The last thing I will say is I will actually say I'm pretty against the idea of a tiered approach to the usage fees, specifically this idea that the more water you use, the more you should be charged. And I guess this comes from my perspective of being the youngest of a family of 5. I could see that ending up really bad, where that large families are actually being charged for the usage of water. And it's not that they're not conserving, it's simply that they're a large family and therefore they use more water than the neighbors next door who are a family of 3. And if we are going to charge them a higher usage fee simply because they have more individuals in that family using water, that does not in any way scream equity to me. So I would suggest that if we want to encourage conservation, that we specifically make a conservation challenge within our fee structure, which is essentially similar to what was Julian had mentioned, this discount for gardeners, this program we had tried, where it's sign up for the conservation challenge. And if you can keep your usage below X amount, and we will have this information once Ratellis gives us this information, then you can be given so much of a discount. That way, we're not creating unintended consequences of putting higher use fees on larger families and individuals that just may use more water as a result of their personal lifestyle or just the realities of their life. And I think in that way, we're actually being a lot more direct in incentivizing conservation, because we're asking people, do you believe you can conserve this water? Sign up for this program, take on the challenge. And if you meet that challenge, we bill quarterly, I believe every 2 months, 3 months for our water, then you can get a percentage discount on that. That way we're actually creating a challenge to individuals and we're not creating potentially unintended consequences.
Yeah, oh, sorry, Tanya.
Oh, I do like that idea.
Yeah, I'm very interested in, I mean, this is also, it really tacks onto the software issue, but I remain interested in the idea of going even beyond what Mayor Pro Tem Baumhofer has mentioned, and rebates to people who use underneath the automatically through the software that could let us do that. Then we could actually reward conservation rather than punish overuse, which I do think is a better way to go.
Thank you, everyone. Before we come,
I could add something. There. I had thought the same thing, that we could use CIP funds software. I had asked Raftelis directly if that was an acceptable practice, and it is not. They told us that it is not considered a capital expense. It's not something depreciable. It's not really a thing. I mean, in my mind it is, but in theirs it is not this tangible thing that you invest in using capital fund. And so they flat out told me that that's not something that they recommend using capital funds for software. So I just want to put that out there. I think the same thing. It all comes from the same pot of money. It all comes from user fees ultimately, but that is not a correct use of those funds.
Thank you for that clarification. That's really good to know.
Yeah, thanks, Chris.
One thing to keep in mind as we've gone through our budget is that there is money in the fund balance in both the water and the sewer, that if you decided you wanted to start tapping into some of those PIF funds, for example, that we've been saving, that's a decision that you guys could make. If you decided this is critical, that's where we could draw from. So I just want to make that mention.
There are other options and other pools of funding which we can tap into if it proves necessary.
Exactly. Like if you get town direction to find it, I would work with Rita and Chris, right, and we would identify that.
Very good.
This is Trustee Taylor, and I'd just like to make, if it wasn't clear, I'd like to make it clear that I'm not trying to identify where the funds would come from, but I certainly did want to bring up that we may need to change the software. And as I was saying, I'm hopeful that use versus address would be opaque to the software, but perhaps upon analysis, we will find that newer software would be better and would save us money over the long run. And I'm of course certainly open to that.
All right, I'd like to, this is a discussion item, and I'd like to throw this open to see if there's any input from the public who's been listening in on this conversation. Anyone who would like to weigh in on what you've heard from the discussion, from the proposal, now would be a great opportunity. You can have 3 minutes to give your views or thoughts. As usual, begin speaking up or raise your hand or somehow flag us down, and you can have your 3 minutes.
So Sue Churches had called in, it's Miranda, but she's having trouble unmuting herself. So she sent me a message, and I'll read that. I wanted to introduce another important factor to water usage. Discounts for beautification, soil health, and food growing, a vital part of health and well-being. Conservation is fine, but gardens are equally important. A beautification food gardening challenge as well. And she added that she'd love to see a shift in attitude from wasteful to healthful.
Thank you, Sue. Any other members of the public?
Hi, this is Kim Goho, resident of town. I have a couple points and questions. One, this is for Trustee Taylor. Section 13-28A and section 13-58A are not exactly the same. One, they're not consistent with the wording. One, the first one needs to be consistent with the second one regarding units. Number two, I know we keep talking about rate study, but the rate study results should not have any bearing regarding the number of tap fees, as it doesn't relate to additional fees. Increasing the usage fees based on it makes sense, but it's not related to the number of base fees. I know we talked about it, but I just want to emphasize that. A third point, we've been charged an additional base fee for 3/4 of this current year based on the town's interpretation of the town code with an additional use. So when can we be expected to be reimbursed for this fee that was unethically charged before the BOT was aware of this misinterpretation? And then I understand that there's a software issue, and I understand it's cumbersome, and I appreciate that the board has brought up that improving that should not be passed on to the residents, but it also should never have been brought to an issue that the 21 or 24 properties were so hard to reimburse, because we should have never been charged in the first place. So those are just a few things that I wanted to add, and I appreciate that you are all looking at this again.
Thank you, Kim. Any other public comment? Not hearing any. I will bring this back to the board. And I would like to first put this back on Trustee Taylor as sort of summarizing this for everyone, and summarizing what do you see as our next steps and way forward? Is there going to be, what further input do you need from the board? Is it going to come back as another discussion item in a few weeks? What do you see happening?
Mayor Larson, I am new to the board. I am a total amateur at this, and so I have to confess I do not understand the process entirely. But with town staff's stepping in to correct me when I make a horrible error here, I would suspect that we are very close to having a proposal for wording upon which the board could vote at some point. Wording which would, of course, not be incorporated into town code until we were ready to actually implement it. And I have to agree that it is true that Raftellus is not going to tell us anything about our code. The code is ours, not Raftellus's. But if Raftellus understands our code, they will be able to provide us with better numbers. And that's really where Raftellus comes in. And the idea, I think, is that if we were to try to adjust our fees now, which is a very long and involved process, and then try to adjust our fees later, that's going to cost us more money than it's going to get us. I think that's largely why we're waiting on the Raftellus study. But town staff, please correct me if I'm wrong. I think the next steps would be for the board to take an action item to vote on the new wording and then decide on the date at which point the new wording would become active in our town code. Is that a fair statement, Karen or Chris?
Well, you're basically going to end up with an ordinance and a hearing, a public hearing, to change the code. So what I've heard some of the trustees say is that they would prefer to wait to do that till after the rate study. So I think that's a bigger question as far as timing goes. I don't know if you've gotten any specific direction where there's any edits that need to be made to what you presented, but it kind of sounds like maybe that hasn't happened tonight. But really, the bigger question is, when does the board want to consider changing the code? Do you want to do it now, or do you want to wait until after the rate study?
This is Trustee Taylor. And Karen, I think, thank you very much. I was figuring that the process would be something like what you described, but of course, I don't know exactly what it is. So I will trust you, of course, to keep us up to speed on what the actual process is. I would like to propose, based upon what you've just suggested, that the board, before the Raftellus study comes through, agrees on the wording without actually incorporating that into the code yet, and then informs Raftellus what the wording is in order to help them in their assessment. And then I think the board at some point should agree to place this into code when we are ready and we verify that our software was supported and that sort of thing.
Right. So I would see this as perhaps we could have this come back to the board in I guess maybe not the very next meeting, because I know we have a lot on the very next meeting's agenda. Meeting that cleaned up language with maybe some analysis of the software question, and then the board could take a nod of 4 at that meeting to submit this proposed language changes to Raftellus, and then sort of have it tabled until we get feedback from Raftellus and the rate study, at which point we would integrate the changes into the town code and fee structure simultaneously.
That is consistent with what I was thinking we might do.
Mm-hmm.
I think that sounds great.
So I guess comments from the board, or I'm going to go down, we could basically just do a nod of 4 on that proposal, on that timeline and idea of how to approach this. We've heard from Trustee Taylor, we've heard from Trustee Danforth, so Trustee Combs Ismail?
Yeah, I think that that sounds fine to me. Only that, I guess the only issue I have that I don't think we need to necessarily do these things simultaneously. I don't think it makes that big of a difference if we do the code change in advance of implementing the new fee structure. What I think makes the big difference is that we do the code change after we know what the circumstances are going to be regarding the software situation. You know, when we can get software that could actually, do this, that what we needed to do. Because to change the code and then to not have software that can address the code change would be pretty dramatically bad, I think. So we do need to wait to change the code until that point, but I don't think it's actually that we need to wait until we implement the new fee structure.
Okay. Trustee Apt?
As I said before, I don't have anything new to add. And I do think I don't want conservation to get lost in the details. I understand the trade-offs and what we discussed makes sense, and I do think we should move forward.
Okay. Trustee Corvallin?
Yeah, I'm all for it. I kind of agree with Eric that I don't even think we need to wait for the rate study to change the code. But ultimately, if everybody wants to, that's fine. I know that the people involved are no longer going to be getting charged twice, right?
We ended that a
Yeah.
month and a half ago. Yep.
So I guess, there's no real hurry to change the code. So I'm happy to do what the majority feels, but I don't think it's necessary in my mind. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Baumhofer?
I think this is a sound way to proceed, and I'm torn on whether or not there actually is a need to wait to change the code. And barring that, I would rather just be on the safe side and wait to change the code until we can do this all kind of in one big swoop and we have all the information. That said, I think it's very wise, as Julian has said, to provide this wording to Ratellis to see how it may affect the different information we can get back from them.
All right. Town staff, Karen, Chris, it sounds like they're a nod of 4 to move forward with that plan. Did you have any other questions or need further input from the board, or do you feel like you have the required information to move forward in the coming weeks?
I think I'm okay.
Yeah, I'm understanding that we should send this draft language to Ratellis to look at it. I'm a little confused about how much you want, do you want town staff to do some sort of RFP for software? I'm just not sure with the software what you want town staff to be doing right now. Because I will tell you, it's going to be very expensive. And that's okay. That's okay. And usually with a product like that, that's going to be pretty expensive, you're going to want to do some sort of RFP or RFQ and go through a process, a vetting process, and probably have a subcommittee and maybe include one of the board members on it in the review process. So just I guess we just need a little clearer direction about that if you want us to act on it now.
I think Julian.
I was going to say, this is Trustee Taylor. I would like to suggest that it would be terribly helpful, I think, to the board to have an assessment from town staff regarding how hard they think it's going to be to do this using our current software. And if town staff, my feeling is that if town staff comes to the board and says, we may have to work a weekend, but we can pull all this together using the current code, that's useful to know. And it may be a case where, based upon that, we can move forward with our existing software and continue to review the possibility of upgrading our software, because software gets old and sometimes, and it's always important to review the possibility that there is better software out there. But
definitely.
I think my feeling, Karen, is that if town staff could take a little while to look at the existing code, and perhaps based upon the experience of switching those particular users earlier to the new approach, what would it take to do that for all of the town? Because I suspect the vast majority of customers are still going to be paying exactly the same base fees. And if that's the case, we don't have to change everything necessarily. So I think, Karen, what I would suggest, and I would look forward to hearing what the other board members think, would be, could you come back perhaps next board meeting with kind of an assessment of how many hours you think it would take to switch over to conform to this wording? And perhaps you may have some suggestions for modifications to the wording that might help us work better with the software. That, I think, is fine for us to consider as well.
Okay, well, so what I'm hearing you say is just looking at the draft language and how that would impact our current way of billing, what we think it would take to get there with the current billing. I just want to give the caveat that our billing person has been evacuated from her home and is having a little bit of a difficult time because she lives over closer to the Cameron fire and has been displaced into a place even farther away from us. So I was thinking maybe instead of the next meeting, maybe we could shoot for November 17th.
I agree. I think next meeting is way too soon.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I think
I just brought that up off the top of my head. So of course.
Okay, cool. Cool. I think I definitely think we can look at it and get an answer to you. I'm so not familiar with that billing software, but we do have somebody who is, and I'm sure she can tackle that.
Chris Peltier's note what he told us about how long it took to do the first batch. I'm only thinking that based upon my experience with software, the first batch does often take a long time. We may find that our accountant has found a faster way to do this and may be able to streamline this now that the accountant has some experience with this approach. So it's just an assessment by town staff, I think, in a couple of meetings would be very useful in deciding if we think a request for quote may need to be issued.
Well, hopefully it doesn't, hopefully it's not a big deal. But we'll get back to you and find out. I will say that the software is integrated across several departments. Our town treasurer uses it. The police department uses it. It's not just water billing software. It kind of goes across the board. So it's bigger than just water billing.
Exactly. That was my assumption.
Can I just ask a quick question? I'm not sure if town staff would know this. When was the last time as a town in Nederland we updated this software?
It was before I started, I believe, though, maybe 5 years ago, 6 years ago.
Yeah, I think it might be maybe even 6, 7 years ago. I think that's about accurate.
Okay. Quick question, because we are in budget kind of season, would it be possible for town staff to potentially just explore potential pools of funding and be able to bring that back to us as well? That if we wanted to get serious and start looking at upgrading this software, not necessarily only because of the issues with this water billing, but just as a upgrade, it sounds like it's relatively cumbersome and may not be the most effective software to be using. I don't know that, and I would look to town staff and town staff's direction, the folks who actually use it and have to interface with it. But I would be interested to know what other potential sources of funding we would have to upgrade this, and what are we looking at in terms of
We can do that, Jonathan. When we come back on the 17th, we can also include, looking at analyzing the budget and seeing if we can come up with some funding.
Well, I think that would be really helpful and appreciated. Thank you.
It's most likely, as you know, it's going to come out of reserve funds or the fund balance.
Correct. Yeah, I would assume. So just to have an idea of what is actually in that. And like you said, it's a huge process. So I'm not guessing that you guys can throw in and add it. So.
The reality, Jonathan, with this kind of product is that we've got one product that we're using for 5 different departments. And normally departments would have their own, like the police department would have their own software. Do you see what I'm saying? It's and utility billing might have their own software, but we've tried to take and this is before my time, but based on lack of funds, tried to find one product that could basically, give the foundation of what's needed in every department. But it makes it so it's not. That's why it's so clunky and not always so user friendly.
Okay, that's helpful insight. Thank you.
Very good to know. All right. I think, again, many thanks to Trustee Taylor for the work he's put in on this, and to everyone else for the discussion this evening. We're going to pop back because I do see Garrett is online. So we had a discussion item for a Solar Energy International program. So welcome back, Garrett, our sustainability coordinator, and the floor is yours.
Thanks, Mayor Larson. Good evening, trustees. I hope everyone's doing well. As you know, I'm the sustainability coordinator for the town. Let it be known, I also work for Solar Energy International. I'm actually a master's student, And I am working with this organization sort of as a master's project, not getting paid or anything from them, but just getting some nonprofit experience. So I wanted to let you know that as well. So let's talk a little bit about Solar Energy International. So if you could scroll down. So yeah, they're a well-established nonprofit solar and renewable energy training organization based out of Peonia, Colorado. That's actually a picture of their campus on that slide. Next slide, please. So in addition to training, they also aim to increase renewable energy in rural Colorado communities via their Solar Forward program. The Solar Forward program's goal is to support local economic development by providing communities with tools to kickstart solar markets. This is accomplished through a solar bulk purchase campaign called Solarize. And so that's what I'm proposing that the town of Nederland take on as a Solarize campaign with SEI. The way the program works is first, the Sustainability Advisory Board and I would issue a request for proposal. So local solar installers would respond to that RFP and state their cost per watt through competitive pricing and a tiered rebate system. So meaning if there's a certain amount of residents that sign up, the price per watt would be further reduced. Once we receive the RFPs and select an installer, the program is marketed, residents sign up, we would help them sign up, and then they would be passed on to the solar installer. Let's see here, Solar Forward, they provide a toolkit with everything needed to launch this program, from marketing tools to technical documents like the RFP, as well as a technical consultant to support the SAB. The program will be facilitated by the SAB, but SEI is, as I said, they've got a technical consultant that would be available to answer any questions and things like that. Yeah, so SEI, they've worked with Delta County, Gunnison County, Summit County, Montrose County, and the Crestone Baca region down in the San Luis Valley. In 2019, the SAB identified partnering with SEI as a goal. The reason why we haven't done that yet is because we just haven't had the bandwidth to support a program like this. The project is expected to take 2 to 3 months. It'll consume roughly 2 hours of my time each week, along with 2 hours from the Sustainability Advisory Board. Yeah, so next slide, please. So just a quick look at solar impacts in Nederland. The table on the right shows the estimated production of a 4 kilowatt residential system in Nederland. So on average, homes in Nederland consume 8,400 kilowatts of energy per year. So installing a 4 kilowatt system is expected to produce 6,000 kilowatts. So using that data, customers could expect to save 70% on their annual energy bills if they installed a 4 kilowatt system. So now is a pretty good time to do rooftop solar. The investment tax credit, which is currently 26%, it drops to 22% in 2021. That's probably if we did this, if you guys want us to do this, that's 2021 is the likely year that we would do this program. So those tax credits certainly reduce the upfront cost and payback period because it's a cheaper system. The payback period is typically 8 to 10 years. A typical rooftop solar array can last up to 20 years, 20 plus years. So for half its life, you've already eventually paid for it by the energy savings. So yeah, besides some of my time and volunteer time, there are no costs associated with this project. And the SAB feels this would be a good opportunity to increase renewable energy and save residents on their monthly energy bills. That's all I had prepared, and I'm happy to answer any questions you guys have.
Thank you, Garrett. Please go ahead.
Sorry, Garrett, this is Trustee Taylor. So I'm looking at the chart you just showed, and I'm afraid I'm at a complete loss. I can't get the AC energy kilowatt hours out of this using any math that I understand. I'm getting more like 176, and that's making just assumptions. Is there a chart of this sort that's a little more detailed and is kind of explaining what those columns mean?
Yeah, I pulled that from the PV Watts calculator, which is which the National Renewable Energy Lab hosts. I would have to go into that tool and look further. I can send you, if you'd like, I can send you a link to that tool that could probably detail what those, all the characteristics of it. I'm not familiar, unfortunately.
Okay, because I mean, it's not making it look like there's a major windfall or anything. It's not like it's intending to be misleading or defraud. It's just that I have no idea how, with an average 20% efficiency solar cell, you're able to get that kind of kilowatt hours out. So yeah, if you could point me at that, that would be wonderful.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, if this were showing that the user was going to make $500 a month off of this, then I would say, this is erroneous to defraud. But it's not. I just don't understand it, and I've done a lot of calculations that lead me nowhere. So thank you very much.
Okay, yeah, I'll send that link to you.
Other trustees have questions for Garrett?
Yeah, I did have one question regarding kind of the implementation of this. My guess is this is implemented by the homeowner themselves. So I'm curious, considering a large percentage of our population are actually renters, and generally the renters are the one that pay the electric bill. And this seems like this is going to reduce the electric bill. So I'm curious, what incentives in this program are there for homeowners who long-term rent to install these for their renters? It seems like there's not much incentive for a homeowner to make this, and they're not going to be the ones actually getting the cost saving. Their renter would be. And in my experience, looking at a lot of these other programs, if you are the renter, you can't install this with your funds. Even if you had written consent by the landowner is actually the one that has to do it. So I'm just curious if you have any insight on that, considering a lot of the folks in our town who really want to be really sustainable are in that renting population.
Yeah, that's a great point, Trustee Baumhover. This unfortunately, this I don't see. I've only been working with SCI for a few months now, but your observations are correct. You have to be the homeowner to really reap the benefits of this. So unfortunately, there is certainly a population that this program certainly benefits.
Thanks for your clarification. I'm in full support of it because anything is better than nothing. I would just love to see, especially if you can, being a part of this organization, kind of start to voice that, hey, we need to find a way to get solar to renters, and we need to find a way to incentivize long-term renter owners to do this for their residents and for their renters.
That's noted, Jonathan, and I'll certainly bring that up with the SAB on Thursday night.
Thank you, Garrett. Thanks for all your work as well.
Hi.
Other trustees? Yep. Yeah.
Oh, this is Tanya. Let's see, what was I going to say? So I and a lot of people use the solar through Excel, where they claim that my energy is coming from solar, and I believe them. I don't get any significant discount on my electric bill. And you claim or say that if we, using this program, if we add the panels to our house, we'll be saving about 75% on our bill. I mean, I know it depends on, not everybody's roof is good.
That's on average. That's just an average. It depends on.
I'm like the kind of person that isn't going to want to get involved with a construction project. Just if I'm already happy with what I have, I would have to really see the data. And it would be good to get a clear, I mean, I'm for the project, but I personally wouldn't necessarily change it unless, unless I was really going to save money, because of the hassle of it, if so, I would be clear, like when you do this, like are people going to come around to our houses and tell us accurately like what our bills are going to be?
Yeah, this would be my first campaign doing a solarized program, but we would develop a marketing program, a community engagement strategy that if we have the bandwidth, maybe. I don't know, but there would be, you don't have to sign up for the program before you understand the benefits of your particular situation. That information would be available for you. That information would be provided by me or the SAB. It's not necessary, the solar installer doesn't have to do all that legwork, which drives down the cost per watt, which is the advantage of using volunteers to help guide residences to explore the possibilities without like committing a solar installer's time, because their time is valuable and there's a cost associated with that.
Right. So you guys are basically going to be vetting all these different.
Yeah, we're just going to be trying to get residences to sign up. So whatever questions you guys have, however we can help you, that's what we're going to be doing. Once you were like, yeah, this seems like a great idea, then we'll get you in contact with a solar installer, that sort of thing.
Cool. I mean, I'm for it for sure. Just was curious about the actual savings. Thank you.
And I just want to also confirm that you mentioned this is not just for residential. This can be used as we could do big outreach into the commercial realm in NED as well, because that is one of our next pieces in the 2025 goal is we've moved the town facilities to solar. Next would be business and community and residences. But this can be used by local businesses as well, correct?
That's correct. Typically it's been residential, but we can certainly advertise it to businesses. So yeah.
Awesome. I think it's a great project, and we're excited to see if it could help drive some more interest here in town and certainly lower the cost. Other trustees? Yeah.
This is Al. Yeah, I just want to say, as Garrett said, we tried to get on board with this 2 years ago at SAB. We didn't have the bandwidth, and we ended up concentrating on getting renewable energy for the town facilities, which worked out well. I was fortunate when I moved to Nederland 11 years ago to get a rebate from Excel to put solar panels in my house. At that time, solar panels were double what they cost now. It did take 7 years to pay them off. And the last 4 years, I've been getting checks from Excel and getting my electricity for free since the panels are paid off. So it does eventually pay. You have to be patient. And the cost of solar panels have come down dramatically. So I think that's all encouraging. And as Garrett said, the beauty of this program is we get to buy in bulk, which makes the cost of the installation even lower.
One thing I do want to bring up with this tonight is this was scheduled as a discussion item, and if the board is interested, we can move it to an action item this evening and approve resolution 2020-36 to direct Garrett and the SAB to work with Solar International. So I just want to put that out there as I also open up the floor for any public comment on this. If anyone from the public has thoughts on the proposal to work with Solar International. Not seeing or hearing any, it'll come back to the board for other comments, thoughts, motions.
I'd like to propose moving this to an action item and approving it tonight.
So you're making a motion to move this to an action item.
Yes.
I'll second that.
Trustee. Yeah.
All right, we have a motion from Trustee App, second from Trustee Coombs Ismail to move this item to action item. Miranda?
Trustee Taylor,
Yes.
Trustee Danforth,
Yes.
Trustee Act,
Yes.
Trustee Coombs Ismail,
Yes.
Mayor Larson,
Yes.
Trustee Corvallin,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Baumhofer.
Yes.
Very good. Do we have a motion regarding Resolution 2020-36?
I move approval.
This is Trustee Taylor. I second.
Again, we have a motion and a second on the table.
Mayor Larson,
Yes.
Trustee Coombs Ismail, Trustee Coombs Ismail, was that you? Or was that? I'll come back. Trustee Danforth,
Yes.
Trustee Taylor,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Baumhofer,
Yes.
Trustee Corvallin,
Yes.
Trustee Apt,
Yes.
Trustee Coombs Ismail.
Yes.
Very good, Garrett. We look forward to hearing from this program, and hopefully we can get this going over the winter time so that members of the community can take advantage of that tax tax discount next year, the 20. So
Awesome.
thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. Thank you for you and to all of SAB for bringing this forward.
Thanks, Garrett.
Thank you.
All right, we have a third discussion item tonight, which is an update on our marijuana moratorium from our deputy town administrator, Miranda.
Yes, this is really just kind of more of an FYI than anything. So I discussed this with Mayor Larson and then also met with Trustee Taylor, who's taking the lead on this. And really kind of identified that we'd like to split the marijuana situation that we're trying to update in the code into two pieces. One being the limitation on the number of establishment licenses that are issued within the town borders. And then two, the restrictions that could be levied related to marijuana hospitality establishments. So what we are proposing is that, again, we tackle them separately. So first, we would start with the limitations on the number of establishments, since that is the current situation with the code and what we're being asked to address with the moratorium. And then we take about 6 months to really dive into the hospitality establishment. That's obviously relatively new in the state, and I think it's going to take a little bit more research on our part that we just may not be able to thoroughly do in 3 months. So under this new plan, what we would do is still plan to bring back to the Board of Trustees in November a discussion item about the limitation of the number of licenses, and then ideally have that code adopted by December before the moratorium expires, but then take until April 2021 to tackle the hospitality establishment. Trustee Taylor also had a great suggestion of identifying stakeholders who are really involved and would be good subject matter experts on marijuana licensing, and specifically that hospitality establishment. So the plan is to have a meeting with them in October and get their feedback on both matters, but really use that committee to dive pretty far into that hospitality establishment. So really the question before you is, in knowing that we're looking to change up and split the way we approach marijuana code changes, do you have any questions or recommendations or concerns about what we have before you?
Hi.
This is.
Sorry.
I'm gonna call here. Tanya, you get to go first.
Okay, I wanted to just make sure I understood. You're gonna tackle the amount of dispensaries in the town of Nederland first, and then the hospitality second, with the goal to come back for the amount in the next month, and then the other one in April. Is that right?
Yeah, correct.
And in the meantime, the moratorium that we have is still holding, correct? correct?
Yes, that moratorium stays into effect until January 19th. So, and the moratorium was really put into place because of the need or desire of the board to have a discussion about the limitation of licenses, which is why we want to make sure we address that in the next 90 days and then take a little bit longer to focus on hospitality establishment.
Okay, makes sense.
All right. Trustee Danforth?
Sorry,
Lindsay?
it's coming off.
Oh, there you go.
Yes. Sorry, the audio broke up there. What do you need my input on?
Oh, we're just, you have any questions on, or questions or comments regarding the idea of splitting this into two pieces, tackling the total number of establishments by December, and then secondly, the hospitality piece by next April?
I think that sounds good.
Okay. Thank you. Trustee Taylor?
Yeah, I'm in complete agreement that this is a reasonably good way to go. The notion of the total number of marijuana distribution points is one for which there is an awful lot of data already, and I think we'll be able to review that without an awful lot of concern. And I would also like to note that the second item is largely covered by the Colorado revised statutes. The Colorado revised statutes go into quite a bit of detail about how these kinds of establishments should be operated and may be entirely satisfactory. And of course, no matter what we decide, the Colorado revised statutes will still cover any marijuana lounge if we allow one in. And so I think what we're wanting to discuss is, does the town of Nederland feel we need anything in addition? And we may well conclude that we don't. Just that's my only thought on that.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem Baumhover.
Sorry, it was on mute. Yeah, this seems like a very logical way to go about this, and I fully agree with the reasoning. I think we can limit the number of businesses, as this is the second time we've had a moratorium, so I believe that's a necessity that we just put a limitation on this and stop going back and forth. And then I would love to see a more in-depth review of this newer idea of hospitality businesses. So in full agreement, and thank you, Miranda and Julian.
Trustee Coombs Ismail? Eric, I've got a little icon here that he's got some bandwidth issues. So Trustee Apt?
I concur. Looks like a good approach.
Okay. Trustee Eric Coombs Ismail? On mute. I think we lost Eric. All right. This is a discussion item, so I'm going to throw this out again to the public who's here with us this evening. If any of you have thoughts or comments on the approach we're taking to tackle the moratorium in two pieces, now would be the time to weigh in. Again, raise your hand, speak up. Not hearing any. Thank you, Miranda, for the update. I think, yeah, look forward to the next piece on that. All right, so let us move into staff reports and then Board of Trustee reports. We haven't had the chance to do those in a little while because we've had long meetings at this, but, oh, Eric?
Yes, I'm back. Sorry about that.
Welcome back. Did you want to weigh in anything further on the more?
I had a question. The question was, if we are to figure hospitality, do we have a mechanism to stop people from applying for hospitality licenses between January and April when the moratorium runs out?
So currently, per the code, a hospitality establishment would have to have an SRU agreement, and so it would start with the planning commission and move its way through the boards. And at that point in time, the board of trustees would have the ability to review and accept or deny that application.
All right, so we don't, in that case, need to put a second moratorium in place between January and April, specifically for hospitality establishments. That's
An attorney, Attorney Madsen's on, so maybe I'll ask her for that clarification.
The other issue, Miranda's right about the planning process, but the other issue is that a municipality has to specifically state that they do intend to have hospitality establishments in their jurisdiction. And so that's not something that Nederland has previously done. And so there's no concern with waiting until April to get that in place. Nobody could apply before the board made a decision on that.
This is Trustee Taylor. I'd just like to add that there are already existing statutes that cover marijuana hospitality establishments. Colorado revised statutes provide for training for the bud tenders and various other rules around how those can be run. And it could be that those are entirely adequate. And I think what we're wondering is there any reason to add anything in our code to augment the Colorado revised statutes? And so it's not like we're going to be traveling into the Wild West, even if we were to decide to allow a marijuana hospitality establishment. Just we may decide we want to augment the statutes, but it may well be that we find no need. Just thought I'd throw that in.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you. Thank you for that clarification, Eric. Moving forward into staff reports. Town Administrator, Karen.
Good evening, Mayor, trustees, staff, and the public who's listening in. Of course, we've had a change of events over the weekend with the wildfires, and this packet was posted before we got heavy into it. And so, as you know, I've been communicating with the board regularly about how staff is mobilized, and the community center has been set up now to accept evacuees who are coming to get information and support, and then direction on where they can go for housing and so forth. Both the marshal and sergeant with me and Fire Marshal Rick Hendrickson and Miranda, we formed a incident respond management team, as it were. And we've been really monitoring, tracking what's going on with the fires. We've also created a very robust communication system. We are communicating regularly with the Intermountain Alliance, which goes from peak to peak, and they have a way of getting word out to those communities as well. We, of course, are posting regularly on our Facebook page updates from the Office of Emergency Management, and the Incident Command that is now has the federal level has taken over both fires. As a matter of fact, there's a post right now on Facebook that I just put on there for that town hall that they're doing, that the Incident Command and the Boulder County and the Sheriff's Office are conducting right now. So our main goal has been to support the firefighters and the agencies working on the fire, as well as provide assistance to evacuees and support the Office of Emergency Management and the Red Cross as best we can. Fire Marshal Rick Hendrickson is on the line tonight. And Rick, I don't know if you want to give any more of an update than I have. We have seen some fire activity today, but it's been manageable, and they are, of course, building containment fires. And even though both did grow a little bit today, The Calwood fire is around 9,600 acres, I believe, and the left-hand fire is still under 500 acres. And with that, I'll just turn it over to Rick Henriksen, if you're still on the call.
Yeah, I'm here. Good evening, everybody. What Karen said is all correct, and it's been really good working with her over the last few days and the rest of the town staff. We made some plans going forward to kind of talk about some more evacuation work and just planning on that for the future. Just for this last weekend, when the first fire came in on Saturday, we were requested to send a crew, and we did send an engine right off the bat. They requested it to come back the second day, and we actually worked with Timberline Fire to jointly staff that engine the second day. They actually had more people available than we did, and that worked out really well because then we had enough people when the second fire came in to send two trucks to that one. And all of our volunteers responded really well. We had, at one point, about 6 more volunteers in our station on Sunday, in addition to what we sent, along with myself as one of the career people. And then a little later on in the evening, one of the other career staff came in to assist. We have been continuing since then to send one engine to the excuse me, the Calwood fire. We're staffing that with our own folks. I'm actually taking my turn tomorrow to head over there, and that so far seems to be working well, and still plenty of staff here in town.
I do want to say that we've been very impressed with how all of the agencies and the federal government as well have, through the United States Forest Service, have attacked these fires, and especially the left-hand fire. They came in right away and dumped like $1 million worth of fire retardant on it, and we do believe that has made a huge difference in how this fire activity has been kept from growing into an even more dangerous, more and more acres and impacting more and more people. So we are really grateful for all of the multi-agency groups that we've been working with and communicating with, and of course, the nonprofits who are helping find shelter for people, providing food and water and supplies, and our great folks at the food pantry and our folks from Peak to Peak Counseling and the staff at the community center and our police department, and just the way everybody mobilized. A lot of people were off this weekend, and that didn't matter. When they were called to duty, they just showed up, and a lot of us have been working, all day, every day, and it's just such an honor to work with such a great group of dedicated, skilled professionals who care so deeply about the safety of this community.
I have one other thing.
Sure.
Yeah, if you didn't see, the National Weather Service has called for a red flag warning day again tomorrow for a good chunk of the Front Range between 6,000 and 9,000 feet. So we're going to be watching that closely as we have been. Hopefully after that we get a weather change, and that will be the last one for a while. So, and along with that, the forest closure that takes effect tomorrow at midnight. Hopefully that will keep people out of the woods and have fewer chances of a start for another fire.
Right. So that wasn't actually even included in my report, and I'll just go over a few of the things, the highlights that we have. Our SIRSA loss report came out very, very well this year. We scored extremely high for our mitigating risk in 2019. We had only incurred cost from 9 worker comp claims. The total cost was $5,771. So these were very, very minimal claims. Our property casualty claims came in at nothing, came in at 0. So we did really well, which of course not only is it going to save us money because our premiums continue to be pretty stable. We don't see them going up like some municipalities, but also it's just keeping everybody safer and protecting our assets. So I'm really proud of the entire staff, and just wanted to also recognize Chris Pelletier, because he's taken on he's sort of the nanny guiding all of us and making us follow all these rules. And he's been just great in helping us all the different departments meet the loss control protocol that's put forth through CIRSA to help keep it safe. So congratulations to the entire staff. And then we are working right now with the Office of Emergency Management on our hazard mitigation plan update. And the big players in that team are Fire Marshal Rick Henriksen, the Marshal Johns, me, and Miranda and Chris Pelletier. So of course, with the fires and everything, we're a little delayed. We were hoping to have our section of the plan ready by the end of this week, but it's probably going to take a little bit longer. But the timing is really interesting to be doing this in the middle of a year when we're having a pandemic, as well as battling these fires. So it's a great process to go through. And really the idea is the information is there for us. It's countywide. It includes the entire Boulder County. All the different municipalities weigh in with their different plans. And then we sort of vet them together and we get support from each other. And then it really becomes our tool to use as we're battling whatever it is. So that's something we're working on right now. As far as COVID goes, I think you guys have all been paying attention to what's going on. I've been sending you the updates and the press conferences and that type of the press information from the governor's office, from the state and from the county. We are seeing a surge in numbers. The good news is Boulder County really got on top of their surge, which, had been directly related to CU Boulder and the activity on the campus there. So Boulder County went from being a hot spot. We were in the red zone on the dial, and now we're back down into the yellow zone, which is great, which means we can stay at the level we currently are at, our current order, which is safer at home level 2. It still only allows gatherings of up to 10 people. If you're gathering with folks, they don't want to see you with more than 10 people. We can still keep our restaurants opened and so forth, as long as all the social distancing protocol and wearing masks and whatnot are all maintained. Of course, what we're all hoping is that what we're seeing statewide with the increase in cases, none of us want to turn back the dial where we all have to stay at home again and shut down businesses. And that's a big fear. That's, of course, rightfully so for small businesses because of what it can do to the economy and to people's livelihoods and whatnot. So the state has been coming down very hard on municipalities and counties and making sure that they're putting protocols in place and mitigation plans like we did in Boulder County, and tracking and monitoring it to make sure that we get on top of this. The big concern is that we could see a spike again they're guesstimating middle of November, and that we could see an increase in hospitalizations. So this is a big effort from CDPHE and the state. And of course, our county is very dedicated and committed and working closely with the state as well to try to stay on top of these numbers. The good news in Nederland is we still only have 6 confirmed cases. Our businesses are just rocking it. They're doing such a great job on adhering to the orders. Miranda's working with the businesses, do want to extend their outdoor eating capacities and capabilities through the winter. The DDA has a subcommittee that has reconvened that's going to be meeting actually tomorrow afternoon, that Miranda and I are part of as well, to talk about what else can we do to help the businesses prepare for and get through the winter. COVID right now, Nederland, we're doing great. The counties actually improved statewide, though the numbers are not looking good. So hopefully other counties can get on top of it and folks will continue to social distance and wear their masks and do all that stuff. Let's see. That's probably all I'll talk about since I've talked a lot already. Unless you have any questions.
Thank you, Karen.
Or comments.
Well, I want to thank you and town staff for keeping the flow of information this weekend. And I see he's still on here. Rick, thank you to you and everyone at the department for going out on fire after fire this week, and fingers crossed for the red flag day tomorrow. And I keep looking at this forecast and seeing snow, and I can't get here soon enough. Anyone else have any questions for Karen? If not, we will move forward to our town accountant's report.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, Rita. Welcome.
All right. All right. Anyway, let's see. Good evening, Mayor, trustees, and members of the public. The 2020 September financials continue to trend with an increase in tax revenue and a decrease in expenses when compared to the projections. Some highlights of the report include the following. In the general fund, total revenue year-to-date totals $1,459,463, which is an 18% decrease from the budgeted amount. This is mainly due to the budget amount of $300,000, the TIP grant in grants revenue being reflected in the month of September versus the grant expense, which was posted in the month of August. In the general fund, year-to-date expenses total $1,304,428, which represents a 30% decrease from the budgeted amount. Overall, the year-to-date change in the actual fund balance, revenue minus expenses, equals an increase of $155,035. In the Community Center Fund, the total year-to-date revenue of $265,399 represents a 1% increase over the budget amount versus the year-to-date expenditures of $196,804, which is a 19% decrease from the budgeted amount. In the Water Fund, total revenue year-to-date totals $654,214, which is a 53% increase from the budgeted amount. This increase is largely due to the PIF fees year-to-date revenue of $122,295 compared to the budgeted amount of $27,250. In the Water Fund, year-to-date expenditures equal $432,757, which is a 16% decrease when compared to the budgeted amount. In the Sewer Fund, total revenue year-to-date totals $672,228, which is 30% above the budgeted amount. Year-to-date expenditures in the Sewer Fund in the amount of $682,648 represent a 3% decrease over the budgeted amount. In the Streets Fund, the total revenue is $63,162, which is 5% lower than budgeted, and expenses are $61,458, which is a 41% decrease when compared to the budget. Overall, the year-to-date change in the actual fund balance equals an increase of $1,703. Department heads have been operating with contingency budgets since March, when the pandemic resulted in the closure of businesses. Due to this approach, fund balances in all of the funds are better than projected. Any questions?
Thank you, Rita. Any questions for our town treasurer, accountant? All right, hearing none, we will move forward to Miranda, Deputy Town Administrator, Town Clerk Report.
All right. So over the last month, I've processed 10 new and renewed business licenses. Liquor licenses, I'm happy to report that the transfer of ownership from the branding iron to the mine shaft is officially complete. COVID definitely had a huge impact on the delay for them, but I'm happy that Martina and her team are officially the mine shaft. I'm working on liquor license renewals for Peak Wine and Spirits, Crosscut, the cigarette store, which is smoker friendly, as well as Quick Mart is a new one to add. And then working on a renewal from a marijuana license for the Flower Collective. Our Chipeta Park rentals obviously have slowed down quite a bit with just kind of change in weather, but Allison Powers is still hosting ski conditioning classes throughout the month of October and potentially into November at Chipeta Park. We had previously kind of brought this up in previous reports, but the town did receive CARES funding of $69,309. And actually to date, I've done $15,000 worth of reimbursements that have been awarded to reimburse us for PPE and other items that we may have purchased so far to help with our COVID-related expenses. And then we're actually happy to report that the bulk of that funding is going towards the visitor center bathrooms. Chris and his team have already started kind of the demolition side of that to remove all of the current fixtures, and then we're actively pursuing touchless surfaces and some air quality devices to really help with those, opening those back up. And our goal is to definitely have that done before the end of the year so we can get rid of the porta potties. Over the past in the past 30 days, I've completed 16 core requests, which I have outlined in my report. And then one new thing, I didn't do a website update, but to kind of piggyback off of Karen, we did create a fire information icon on the right-hand side of our town homepage. So you can click there and get all of the information about the fire. We're basically taking what we post on Facebook and also moving it into the website. So it's captured there as well. And that's all I have.
All right. That's all. You make it sound like you're not doing anything.
Right.
Thank you, Miranda. Does anyone have any questions for Miranda?
This is Trustee Taylor. I don't have a question, but I just want to say that in this particular board's first meeting, we were talking about those porta potties and how we needed to do something about it. And I would like to thank town staff for actively working on getting this issue addressed so cleanly.
Indeed. All right. On Marshall's report.
Good evening, board. Just real quick before I delve into this too much, obviously this is the topic of the day, but I've been approached by a couple of residents over the last 2 days. One question was the Big Springs egress, and I know nobody's forgot about it, but I was asked to put a reminder into everybody's brain about it. And the other question was evac plans for the town, you know, especially more so on a busy weekend when we have all this additional traffic. So that's obviously not something that's just a easy fix or an easy solve, but as Karen was saying, her and Rick and I had met, and this discussion at least has started about the potential of having to do a quick evacuation. So right now we do have rough plans depending upon what happens in left hand. So we're at least, you know, the ball is moving forward, so it's about time.
Marshall Johns, I just want to say that Chris Pelletier and I are working on the Big Springs egress, and we will be making an update to the Board of Trustees probably in the next month.
Awesome. I think a lot of people hear that. So staffing update for the PD. Officer Gillen resigned, which is unfortunate for us. You know, we try to spend a lot of time and pick good people, but unfortunately it doesn't always work out that way. Things just weren't going the best with him, so that was his decision. and maybe the best one for himself and family. We currently are advertising for officers. We have 5 active applications at this point in time. I'm trying to get my foot in the door with Aurora Community College and try to recruit directly with graduate classes. Training update, most important for us is we have completed our minimum 2-hour driver's training. The day was ended up being a 5-hour block of training, in-house training. We pretty much focused on 4-wheel drive operation and winter driving and stuff surrounding what we do here. The whole time I've been here, we've never even addressed it. It's just, I guess, been a given. So we did some practicals, and I think it was a good training, actually. We also worked with GPS. PD has a GPS. Perfect example is maybe giving out coordinates for a fire or something like that for airdrops or for helicopter landing, something like that if we're in the back of West Magnolia or Golden Gorge or who knows where, top of Caribou. Crime report and any noteworthy information. Last month I reported to you guys that we had a unattended death. And it was in the Big Springs area. Coroner's final report came back on that it was suicide, which is very unfortunate. Some other miscellaneous things that I won't go too into. You guys can read about them that were kind of interesting calls from the month. What's exciting to me at least is some of the things that the PD is doing with at least a couple of the kids here in town. Myself and Sergeant Jen have pretty much kind of taken a couple of kids under our wing, so to speak, and helping them out, trying to mentor them as much as we possibly can, convincing them, to stay home, not run away, have some self-respect, responsibility, respect for their parents, others. Hopefully this stuff will pay off in our community moving forward. There's, plenty of other kids there that could probably use some help, but there's only so much of us to go around and so much for when the parents actually allow us to get involved in their kids' life. I want to give a shout out to Randy Lee. He spent a whole bunch of time revamping one of the kids' computers so that they could get on and do remote schoolwork. So that's, that's a big deal. And the family was very thankful that he did that. Family was thankful that I was able to even offer that to him. And I didn't expect Randy to do it for free. We would have donated money here out of our pockets or whatever we needed to do to make it happen. So it was important. Other updates, the door in the bio building's been replaced. That's quite nice and safe for a change. Last month we discussed CDOT conducting a slower speed study on Highway 72. They have recontacted us, and so Troy Hendricks is working with them, so at least that project's starting to move forward. Trustee Taylor let me take a spin in his old Tesla. That was pretty cool, and I will say I'm impressed by electric vehicles. I had no idea. I think they're going to be a wave of the future for sure. It's going to be a while, but man, are they making strides. And lastly, hopefully you guys got a attached photo of the new PD vehicle graphics, or maybe you've seen the car driving around. One of the comments I got from somebody was, it looks much friendlier. And I like that. I like that somebody, that's, what it showed to them. So I think it's pretty sharp looking, and it actually looks like a mountain vehicle, and it represents our town pretty well, I think. That's all I got.
Thank you very much, Chief. Does anyone have questions for Larry Jones?
I'd just like to commend you on the outreach to the kids. I think that's great, and I do like the graphics. I think they're cool.
Thank you.
This is Trustee Taylor. It's always inspiring to hear your reports, Marshal Johns, that what we have are peace officers who are engaged in the community and helping citizens. Absolutely wonderful stuff.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you again for all you guys do. Chris, Public Works Manager.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor and the board. Our report's in the packet. Public Works is really busy this time of year. We're not in the field. We're fixing stuff at the shop. As I noted at the end of my report, fixing vehicles like the water truck. And I guess inherently that's what we do is fix stuff, whether we're in the field or not in the field. We took apart the loader this week, had a serious oil leak, and so addressed that. So we do a lot of things behind the scenes besides the things that you guys see out there in the field, such as the paving that we did at the community center and hydrants and such that we install. And so that's about it. My report's in the packet. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
All right. Thanks, Chris. Does anyone have questions for Public Works? All right. Well, thank you very much for keeping everything flowing. Community Center, Dawn.
So my report is in the packet, but I wanted to again thank Chris and the team for getting the luge run paved. That is an amazing change. You'll all appreciate it when we eventually get back to in-person meetings. You'll notice it if you come to drop off your ballot. Most of the voting signage is blowing away. Fortunately, the ballot box is steady and open, and it will be until the close of the election. So I wanted to point that out. Mostly you can read that what's in the report. I wanted to just point that out to thank Chris. And there's a letter in there thanking the staff at the community center. In Karen's report, thank you, Karen, that was very, very sweet what you said in your report, but I want to give a shout out to Kurt Abendroth, our new office manager, who is absolutely instrumental and just doing a great job to keep the fitness place open, to keep everything running smoothly there, the scheduling, the cleaning. It's going really well. We're steadily increasing our membership at the fitness place. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about what's not in my report, which is, of course, this is the fourth time in 10 years that we have done in-person shelter at the community center or somewhere else, of course, in the Cold Springs fire. 4 Mile fire, the 2013 floods, the Cold Springs fire, which was moved to the high school, but same team running it, and this fire, the Left Hand fire. We've been planning for it. Every time we do after actions, we come up with a better way, but it was absolutely seamless this time from activation. The same people show up. So I just want to call out Chris Current and Dennis Whalen of the Pantry, Christy Venditti, Colleen Sinclair, the Pantry Volunteers, Amy and Richard of Peak to Peak Counseling, Christine, who's part of the Mountain Health Collaborative. If you don't know what the Mountain Health Collaborative is, it is a group of vetted health professionals, including mental health professionals, that show up, and they have to take Red Cross or public health training and be certified through either one of those organizations to be part of the Mountain Health Collaborative. And they respond, and they can do intake in the absence of Red Cross or another official group. As we know, in these situations, the Red Cross gets overwhelmed, the county gets overwhelmed, and they frequently can't send the individuals who are typically doing these things. So they showed up, they did it. Everybody just knows what to do. There was no confusion this time. Everybody we worked together, and it's been fantastic. So I appreciate I appreciate all of those folks and all the time we've spent planning. All the other activities are still taking place at the community center, so we're still operating the fitness place. The tenants are still coming in to cook or, do what they do. Classes have started this week slowly. Everybody's following COVID specific protocols, which is wonderful. And I'm just looking real quick here to see if there's any. Oh, I just wanted to point out that we are an evacuation point, an evacuation center. Karen mentioned this as well. People come in, they check in, and then if they need housing, they're directed through the proper channels, and that's arranged, and then we can send them on their way. We've got water, we've got a few snacks there, but people are not encouraged to stay and congregate. We do have a couple trailers of evacuees that parked overnight or for the couple nights in the parking lot. So if you see those there, that's what that's about. And that's all. Just wanted to make sure people understood that this time, because of COVID, it's not an actual shelter. People are not staying there. So that was a change. But otherwise, we would be. But it's because of COVID that the Red Cross is getting other places for people to stay. So that's all I have to say. Oh, and just I wanted to give a shout out to our, we have 4 town staff in different departments who are evacuated. And I'm not sure the board is aware of that. There's 3 other folks, and Chris Pelletier is one of them. So that shows a real commitment to our town. Our staff members are evacuated, and just want to say we're thinking of them. That's all I've got to say.
Thank you, Dawn. Definitely want to echo that sentiment. We're definitely thinking about all our town staff and all of our other friends and neighbors who were evacuated right now and dealing with us. Any questions for Dawn? All right, moving forward into board and trustee reports. My stuff's written there. I won't read that to you. It's just a handful of things I've been doing for the last month. A couple other things I do want to highlight that have come up or are newer. First is that I really appreciate all the trustees getting, putting these reports together. I know it's kind of a pain to get harassed by Miranda, and we really appreciate her harassment because I know I'd forget every time if she didn't. But I think having these in the board packets is really valuable. Being able to see, even if you don't have a lot or anything to report, I think it's great just to be able to have this record of all the different these meetings, whether it's being the liaison to our various boards and trying to really bring together the board of trustees and our town advisory boards, our external advisory boards, or all the other groups we work with in this role. And I think it helps the community see how much more there is to serving on the board of trustees than they see just in these meetings. So I think I really want to appreciate and really thank all of you for putting these reports together and getting them to get into the packets every month. The other thing I just wanted to highlight is something that Dawn just mentioned briefly is we are, of course, 2 weeks out from Election Day. That means the ballot drop box is open at the community center. And so I just want to help continue to get the word out, get everybody up there voting, and get our ballots in the next 2 weeks. That's it for me. So Mayor Pro Tem Baumhofer, or what's the order here? Yeah.
Yep. And I have to apologize to citizens as well as town staff and the rest of the board. I did not actually get my trustee report in, so apparently Miranda's sharing it. But yeah, Nederland DDA is continuing to move forward on many, many different projects. Some progress has been made, some actually really good progress has been made with the wayfinding project. Steve Carell and Claudia Schaffler have vetted 2 different companies, which were the 2 that responded to the RFP. And the DDA has chosen to go with this company, Major. They are a design build firm versus the other firm, which was just a design firm and that would help facilitate contracting out. The DDA felt with all the projects going on and felt very comfortable with this firm and organization and their background and expertise with wayfinding. and is very excited to move forward. So I would expect to see a resolution coming before the BOT requesting TIF funds to actually hire this firm to begin the process of essentially designing and building wayfinding plans for our town. It's been on our list for a long time and been an ongoing vision probably for almost 10, 15 years. Additionally, Big Springs parking will be coming back to us. It will be coming back to us in a slightly different form than we had talked about last trustee meeting. I believe it won't be a consent item, as they are actually requesting full funds for the project now based upon the last DDA meeting. So keep an eye out for that. And pretty much the project is the exact same. They just have separated and moved away from requesting the survey before and are requesting funds for the entire project with the specific surveyor that they would like to see used being called out in the funding request. The electrical shed and the performance space at Barker Meadows continues to move forward with Chris Peltier on top of everything else he does, continuing to act as the project manager as he has since the beginning and facilitating scheduling, communication, and contract with all individuals. It's been decided that the remaining work that needs done on that shed will be contracted out to local contractors to finish the fascia and soffit and roofing so that we can ensure that that is complete before wintertime. Another additional thing that has come up that has been in discussion and is, I believe, a very positive idea is DDA has approved and will be requesting TIF funds to hire an investment consultant, Dana Edwards, to help create an investment policy for unencumbered DDA funds. The idea behind this is to create structure and procedures that not only will help the current DDA, but future DDA boards to have a concrete structure of, if we have funds that are lying around, how should we be investing these? So I expect to see another resolution requesting TIF funds for that. Not too much there. It's about $2,500. So cost-wise, this is actually a very, very good investment for both the town and the DDA. And the last thing I would like to mention, the DDA is continuing to work toward developing pretty concrete procedures for their individual project committees. And the idea there is to help kind of facilitate better board-to-board communication, as well as better town staff to board communication with regards to all of these ongoing projects. As you see by this report, there are about 5 different projects going on right now. And it's sometimes the BOT might not be aware of all the moving parts here. So we're trying to create policies and procedures that will just help to clear up the lines of communication to make for more effective and functional presentations before the BOT. That's about it. And if you all have any questions, be happy to answer them.
Awesome. Thank you, Jonathan. Any questions for Jonathan? If not, we will turn to Trustee Apt.
Yeah, we'll try to keep this brief. We've had a good partnership with Excel's Partners in Energy. It's coming to an end. We distributed a lot of the energy efficiency kits, which primarily had a couple of LED light bulbs in them. So we're going to be encouraging people to install those so we can hopefully have some reduction of our energy needs. And Garrett McDaniel's gathering information for renewable energy plan. And we've canceled the outdoor meeting. Instead, it'll be a Zoom meeting. That will be on Tuesday morning at 11 o'clock if anybody wants to join in. I think it's dawned on us that we have a tall order to try to make 100% renewables by 2025. And he has suggested we try to come up with a strategic plan to do that. And we're also waiting to hear back on the renewable energy, solar energy garden for low-income people. That's still in the works with the county, and we haven't heard back yet. And Colorado Communities for Climate Action, CC4CA, after making good progress on lobbying the Air Quality Commission on more carefully monitoring oil and gas drilling emissions from day one. As soon as they start drilling, a lot of the ozone that we get in the Front Range is coming from the wells in Weld County, and there's a lot of leakage. And so that was done, and they've also sent in a petition with a lot of communities encouraging Governor Powell to prioritize climate change and state policies, and he responded in a very positive way. That's it for me. Any questions?
Thank you, Alan. I will say that I know that tomorrow night, Dr. Cog that I'm attending has an update on the greenhouse gas plans from Governor Polis is on the agenda. So should be interesting to see what that is.
That's good.
Trustee Taylor.
Well, as usual, I have the cushy job since I'm not able to attend most of the Planning Commission meeting. But when I was allowed to attend the Planning Commission meeting, I can note that they are looking to modify Section 17 of the Netherlands Municipal Code. Primarily, they're clarifying some of the wording in support of better defined wording in order to support judicial interpretation in the event of legal action. And they're also eliminating a lot of ambiguous wording, and that was very useful. And after that, I've looked it over, by the way, and I'm positive it'll be brought before the BOT. And I would encourage everyone to read through Section 17 when you get their modified proposal, and I think you'll find that it does clarify the wording quite a bit. Am I wrong about that, Karen? Anyway, that's what they're working on. And then we moved from there to...
I'm sorry, I was muted.
Oh, that's right.
So repeat the question.
Does the modified Section 17 go past the BOT at some point?
The modified Section 17?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what the Planning Commission is working on.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah, okay. I think everyone will find it illuminating. So it looks like good changes from what I've seen so far. And then there was a course in what a planning commission should and ought to do. And I attended that course, so now I know how to be on the planning commission if I ever get to. And that's it for me.
All right, very good. Trustee Coombs Ismail.
Yeah, the main topic of the most recent Boulder County Consortium of Cities meeting was the Boulder County's proposed code changes to further regulate STRs. So I figured that would be something that people would want to have a look at, so that they know what Boulder is doing. They've also looked at the codes of various cities, including ours, regarding how we address STRs for our recent ordinance. And I've tried to put a summary here, not in favor or against it, but just hopefully to represent how they explained the reasoning for their changes, and how much it will cost, so that folks who are in the Nederland area are aware that Boulder County will have regulation for STRs. And then moving on, the ProSab is working on a number of things. One of the issues that is persistently brought up is this idea that the Ned Rink and State Park rules are not clear to folks, and so ProSab is going to work a little more closely with the nonprofit organizations and the boards that run those operations, and bring them in and have some meetings with them, compile some histories and other data about these organizations, and hopefully we'll be able to generate some stuff on the Nederland website that will explain some of the reasoning for how things work and make it much clearer what the rules and regulations are there, and hopefully we can have a more relationship with those folks through ProSab. There are a few other things that quite a number of things that we're working on that are a continuation from what we've kind of already been doing and what's in other reports. So I won't go into details there, but if anyone has any questions about what ProSab's up to, don't hesitate to get in touch with me. And if you would like to see the full proposal from Boulder County's proposed code change to STRs. I do have a copy of what they presented to us, and I can send that over to you if you're interested.
Thank you very much, Eric. There are no questions for Eric. We will go to Tanya.
Oh, so I don't have too much to say. The RTD meeting was relatively positive for Nederland because I know that we were worried about being cut earlier this summer, and we was reaffirmed that Ned is not going to be cut, which is also very good for the EcoPass program, which we are still able to fund through the tax revenue, mill levy, whatever it is that funds that. But the projections for the next few years do not look good. So people should be prepared for that to go on the ballot for a raise of taxes to fund that, property taxes. But that's not for this year. We're good. And then not necessarily a board, but the multi-party monitoring group for Foresight Project still meets regularly, and I try to join as many of those meetings as possible. We've recently been walking of interest the units 1, 2, which are the ones behind Big Springs neighborhood. So anybody who is concerned about that area and wants to have input on it should reach out to me, and I can connect you to the next field trip that will be in that area. Field trips this weekend have been canceled because of the fire. And then interesting, today I spoke with Karen and Chris about bringing back as a discussion the idea of the second bridge. That looks like there was a lot of talk and plan about this a few years ago. So I feel like we're going to try to get this back on the agenda in the next couple of meetings so we can start talking about really getting this going. I reached out to Eric and he seemed on board with that, so to back me up on that. So look for that as a discussion item. So start thinking about your ideas for a second bridge in town and how you see that happening. And that's it.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Tanya. Last but not least, Trustee Danforth.
Well, Julian thought he has the cushy job, but I may take that title from him because the BZA has not been meeting, so I have no update.
All right. Well, thank you all very much for the reports. I know, like I said, really appreciate having them in here. I did want to add one little addition to mine. I just didn't make it real clear. Ballot drop-off is happening up at the community center, but there will, of course, despite COVID, despite fires, if anyone wants, they can vote in person. There will be in-person voting, so that's always an option. So that'll be open on election days if that is your choice. Does anyone have any further other business? Anything else to bring up? If not, I'll remind everyone that we won't be having our meeting the first week of November because that is election night. Our next meeting will be November 10th. So we have a little extra week here, 3 weeks until our next meeting. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
This is Trustee Taylor. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn. Miranda.
Mayor Larson.
Yes.
Trustee Taylor.
Yes.
Trustee Apt.
Yes.
Trustee Danforth.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Baumhover.
Heck yeah.
Trustee Corvallin. Trustee Corvallin. Trustee Coombs Ismail.
Oh, yes.
Okay. Trustee Coombs Ismail.
Yes.
Meeting adjourned. Everybody have a wonderful night and talk to you all again soon.
Thanks, everybody.